Shalom, shalom. Welcome to Supporting Yah's Cornerstone. My name is Heshra'ah, and that name means moved by Yah. In last week's videos, I talked about what gossip was, and I defined the word gossip in those videos. In today's video, we're going to talk about what gossip is not. And it's important to know both what it is and what it is not. This allows us to help ourselves and others better when we understand what is and what gossip is not. Number one, speaking negatively about someone's conduct or actions or character flaws in itself is not gossip. And so that's important to understand. Just speaking negatively in that way in itself is not gossip. And so that's important to understand. Number two, there is a time when we may have to speak openly about someone's conduct or thinking. Now, when I say speak openly, I'm saying in the sense of it may be a time when you have to tell more than one person or speak in a group setting to speak about someone's character flaws or character. And of course, if you're doing that, there will be a reason for that. But there are times when that has to happen or may happen. And that is not gossip if done with the right intentions and the right thought. And there's a purpose to it. 3, there are times we have to go to the priest about someone. If you have to go to the priest to discuss someone's behavior or something like that, that in itself is not gossip. Once again, as long as the intent is good and there's a reason and a purpose for it, and there's not another option, or the other options have already been done. And I'll talk about that in a minute. So those 3 things, it's important to understand in itself is not gossiping. And there's a time and a place for speaking negatively about someone's conduct or actions or character flaw. There's a time and a purpose for that. And I spoke a little bit about that in last week's videos, and I'll touch on it some today too. Yahweh tells us, or the Bible tells us, to go to the person one-on-one first. So when something negative is occurring because of someone's actions, thinking, and their behavior, we are asked to first go to them one-on-one, not to go tell a lot of other people about it, unless it's something just drastic where other people would need to know right away. Then we are advised to go one-on-one with the person that the issue is being had with, and to speak to them about the problem they're causing, or a problem that's occurring that they may have. And so we can go to Proverbs 25 and 9. And in Proverbs 25 and 9, it says, "Debate thy cause with thy neighbor himself, and discover not a secret to another." So that's telling us in Proverbs 25 and 9, it's advising us to go to the person one-on-one. That's what we're advised to do. If you're not comfortable with that, I would say, if you feel like you need to take somebody else with you, I would say make that a person that's not a gossiper or a talebearer or quick to get angry or any of these types of things. Take the most sensible person that you know as a second person if you're not comfortable one-on-one, But if you're able to do it one-on-one, then pray past your nervousness. If you're nervous or anything, I've had to do that before. Pray past it and then go ahead and do the one-on-one. Leviticus 19 and 17 through 18. We'll go there next. Leviticus 19, 17 through 18. And it says, Thou shalt not hate thy brother in thine heart. Thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor, and not suffer sin upon him. Thou shalt not avenge, nor bear any grudge against the children of thy people, but thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. I am Yah. So it says, thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor. Rebuke is to correct someone. Go to them. Instead of just holding it in and they've done something or said something that bothered you, or there's an issue going on. It's not telling you to hold it in and just do that. It's advising us to go to the person and talk to them about it. Also, it gives the opportunity for any misunderstanding to be dealt with too at that time when you go to the person one-on-one. Because it's possible they didn't mean what happened, or maybe it was just a misunderstanding. So that gives a chance for that to be sorted out when you're going one-on-one also. And yes, I've had to do something like that, and I know at least one thing, it was a misunderstanding between the other people. Where the actual thing was, in this particular case, it was something that was said that someone else thought was meant in a certain way. But then when I went to ask the person, or when I asked them about it, and when I asked them about it, I didn't say, well, so-and-so told me this or that. I just asked them about it, and they explained to me why the particular thing was said. And so I have had an incident like that where I went to the person and everything was cleared up. Come to find out, it was just a misunderstanding, and that was that. So as I said before, when you go to a person one-on-one, it also opens the door for that to happen, where it may just be a misunderstanding. But we are advised to go to each other one-on-one first. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. That is not gossiping. Gossiping is when you're going around, you're telling everybody for no good intention, no particular reason, or, So, we are advised when there's an issue with a person, with their character or actions, etc., that we go to them one-on-one. And that's not gossiping. There are times when we are told to go to the priest when we are unable to resolve an issue among ourselves. So going to the priest if you need to about someone's negative conduct or behavior. If you've tried to go to them one-on-one and time has passed, enough time has passed for them to try to correct it. If you need to go to the priest, or a person or people need to, then we are advised to do that too. And that's not gossiping to go to the priest. And that's in Deuteronomy chapter 17, verse 8 through 10. Deuteronomy chapter 17, verse 8 through 10. And it says, If there arise a matter too hard for thee in judgment, between blood and blood, between plea and plea, and between stroke and stroke, being matters of controversy within thy gates, then shalt thou arise and get thee up into the place which Yah thy ruler shall choose. And thou shalt come unto the priests, the Levites, and unto the judge that shall be in those days, and inquire. And they shall show thee the sentence of judgment. So it's saying if a matter come up and you've tried to handle it, and you've tried to handle it according to the best way, according to the Creator, what you've learned, and it's still going on, and it can't be, you and the other person can't resolve it, then this admonishes you or tells you to go to the priest. That's your second step, or your third step is to go to the priest when you've tried the other things that you need to. And whatever they advise you to do, then it's saying that's what you would do. Keeping in mind, none of this is saying go tell everybody under natural born son. Okay? That's not saying that. It's saying go to the priest with your problem if you've tried to resolve it already in a righteous way. And then it's still not resolved. So you would go to the priest. And then not just go to the priest, but take the advice that he tells you and to do it. And it says in verse 10, and thou shalt do according to the sentence which they of that place which Yah shall choose shall show thee, and thou shalt observe to do according to all that they inform thee. So when you go to the priest, however he tell you to handle the situation, then that's how it would be handled. And so there are times when, number one, we have to go talk to people about their behavior or conduct. And number two, there are times when you may have to go to the priest. And so I think it's important to understand that when something wrong is happening or going on, there are actions that Yah has there for us to take, and that that's not considered gossip. At the same time, you do see where you're not randomly telling varieties of people, and if it's not necessary. Next, we'll go to Deuteronomy 13 and 6 through 8. Deuteronomy chapter 13, verse 6 through 8 says, if thy brother, the son of thy mother, or thy son, or thy daughter, or the wife of thy bosom, or thy friend, which is as thine own soul, entice thee secretly, saying, let us go and serve other gods, which thou hast not known, thou nor thy fathers, namely of the gods of the people which are round about you, nigh unto thee, or far off from thee, from one end of the earth even unto the other end of the earth. Thou shalt not consent unto him, nor hearken unto him, neither shall thine eye pity him, neither shalt thou spare, neither shalt thou conceal him. And so I think the important thing that I kind of wanted to point out in these scriptures is it says, neither shall thou conceal him. That means, you don't keep it to yourself. These things is using serving other gods in this scripture, but it's saying that's not something that you would sit there to yourself and hold in. It's important to know what to keep a secret, what business of someone's to get in and what not to get in. And this kind of opens the door for you to see that there are situations where Yah tells you to say something, that you should say something. Not out of bad intentions, but so it can be dealt. It can be dealt with. And so that's the point that I wanted to bring out of that, because some of us will know things, we'll know something wrong is happening, but we won't say anything and we won't do anything. And in some cases, the more that we handle the situation like that, the worse it gets. Okay. And it doesn't help the person that's doing it, especially when it's things against the Creator. And it doesn't help us individually or our community at large. And so it's important to know what to conceal and what not to conceal. What is gossip? What is not gossip? Okay. And so this is a situation going on here that we are being told that you don't keep to yourself. And it's situations sometimes that happen like that, or situations that evolve into that at first you're able to keep it to yourself in a certain sense, or it's between you and the other person. But when it's not being resolved or settled out, then that's when it has to go to the next step. Well, now you have to conceal it to the priest or another person so it can get resolved. Another point in this same chapter that I wanted to bring out was in Deuteronomy 13 and 14. It says, "Then shalt thou inquire and make search and ask diligently, and behold, if it be true and the thing certain that such abomination is wrought among you." And so it talks about not just believing something when it happens, or when you hear about it. I put it like that. When you hear about something negative occurring, but it says to search out diligently, investigate the matter if you need to, ask around, especially if the person that's telling you, you're not sure about them, are they a gossiper or not? Where did they get that information from? So sometimes you have to look a little bit more into something before you would even go to the person or get involved yourself, or before you incorporate yourself into the situation, that you would investigate a matter when you hear about something negative about someone. If it's a concern for you and something that you need to get involved in, or you think you might, then this is saying, investigate, ask questions. If it's a person in their conduct, it may be observing them, but it's saying don't just automatically all the time believe it because it's being said. Okay. And so I thought that was an important scripture there too, where it talks about basically investigating what you're being told. In this case, it's somebody being possibly accused of serving another god. And so this is saying if you hear about that and that's told, then the leadership will go investigate that. They wouldn't just automatically believe it. They will go see. Investigating the matter and the people involved by asking questions is not gossip. So that's an important thing to know. Things to consider when asking questions. So if you find that you have to do your own little small investigation, or just trying to find, if you feel like you need to know a little more, things to consider when asking questions is what you don't want to do. I put it like that, is don't ask someone that hates everybody or is negative about people in general. So this is something I always try to keep in mind. You'll have people among you sometimes that they don't like anybody. They don't like people in general, and it's just, and you don't want to ask about a person's, have to ask about a person or a character flaw, a negative, something you may have heard or you think you're experiencing with a person or with someone like that. Because what is their answer going to be? Automatically negative. Okay, and you don't need that. What you need is the truth. Okay, either they know that the conduct is true, the history of that person, or something they presently do, or they don't. Or maybe they'll say, well, yeah, so-and-so does that, but I talked to them about it and they working on it, whatever, or they trying, that's what you need. You don't need the person who negative about everybody and they just gonna say, oh yeah, they probably do it, or yeah, they do that, they just not ever no good anyway, and da-da-da-da. You don't need that. So when you're doing a small investigation about someone, sometimes if you need to, don't go to somebody that's negative about everybody and just kind of hate people overall. Okay. Next, don't ask people that love everybody in the wrong way and blinds themselves to all faults. that's not good either. Now that may sound bad, but once again, if you trying to inquire about someone for whatever reason, for good intentions, then you need truth. You don't need some kind of delusion, somebody have, because that's not going to help you. Because if they saying, if they the type of person that cannot think sensibly and according to truth, and they're in a delusion, then that doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help them, because if something is really happening and it's not being dealt with, the truth is going to come out in the results. If somebody, for example, likes to start fires, and then you have somebody saying, oh, they wouldn't start a fire, they would never start a fire, and then one day your house burned down and they stand there with the match, then that didn't do you any good. That lie, it made you feel good at the time about that person, but it wasn't helpful. And so some people live like that, is where nobody can do any wrong. They love everybody, which is good to have a good feeling about humanity, but there's a way that is not right, and doesn't lead to really being able to help people. So if you find that you're doing and trying to find out more information about someone or something for righteous reasons, don't go to somebody that love everybody and just overlooks any kind of fault or whatever. Okay. Once again, you want people that's going to tell the truth and that have sensible thinking. Okay. So, I mentioned, do ask somebody to have sensible thinking, sensible people. If you ask someone you don't know what type of person they are, then be sure to ask your question in a nonchalant way, and don't get into why you're asking. Okay, so let's say you're going to ask someone about a person's character or behavior, or something that may have happened. But let's say, for example, you don't know the person that you're asking. You don't know if they the type of person that hate everybody. You don't know if they the type of person that just love everybody and overlooks any, difficulty. You don't know if they're a gospel. You just don't know. But they all you kind of have available. Then just ask a question, in general question, in a nonchalant kind of way. You're not going to let them know exactly why you're asking if you don't need to, or anything like that. For example, you may ask, what type of person is so-and-so? Have you ever done business with such person before? And just kind of nonchalant way. Or any other in general question you could think of, but ask it real nonchalantly. Like, don't have a super serious look on your face. You don't necessarily have to be laughing and joking, but just make it like, I'm just asking, no particular reason. And have I had to do that before? Yes. Normally people will give information or add from your question if they know. If they know anything, a lot of times people will take your question and kind of give you a little bit added information, or inform you about what you're asking about. Next thing, if you're talking to a person you know not to be a gossip and it's sensible, you can give them some information about why you're asking about a person, or why you're asking about their conduct or behavior or an incident. If the person you're speaking to is not a gossip, and if they sensible in their thinking, then it would be okay to go a little further and maybe letting them know why you inquiring about it. Okay. And so I hope this has been helpful. And I think it's super important to understand what gossip is not. It's been so many times through the years where I hear the kind of sometimes I want to say sensible or quiet type people, or I hear a certain set of sisters sometimes where, or you'll hear sisters period, after something bad has happened or after a negative experience has happened with a person, they'll say, oh yeah, I knew so and so, yeah, they do that, after something has occurred because of the person thinking and behavior. And it's like, well, sometimes you think, well, if you knew, why didn't you tell somebody? Not necessarily tell everybody, but at least tell the people involved, or go to the moray or the leadership to let them know, or let somebody know before the situation got so bad. And people are destroyed, families are destroyed because of behavior that others already knew that certain people have had. I've heard stories, of men, Hebrew Israelites, that purposefully was trying to seduce married women in this way of life. I've heard stories about, and found to be true, women doing inappropriate things that they shouldn't be, and messing up other people's lives. And then you find out later that other people knew and that it was true. Okay. And it wasn't about them telling everybody. It wasn't about that. But tell the important people whose lives is affecting, who are dealing with these people. Go to the person, like the scriptures say. Maybe if somebody go to them, sometimes people might know their behavior is wrong, but when they not confronted, they might not try to work on it or deal with it. But some people, if they confront it, they'll try to work on it sometimes. And then it makes other people that need to know aware that they're involved with, and then they can conduct themselves in a certain kind of way to help that person move along, if that's what they're going to try to do better, or they won't get done in a bad way by that person or by those people. And so we want to use our mouths as an instrument of help and good. And then sometimes what you find is some things are lies, and so you don't want to definitely not be a part of that. But when it's something that we know to be true and we've investigated and we know, or it comes from a very reliable source and we know it to be true and Yah shows it to be true, then we want to learn how to deal with situations. If you think about the nations we live in, what do they have? They have police, they have detectives, all within this one nation. They have counselors, they have people to go look into things. Whereas Hebrew Israelites, we're trying to reform ourselves back into a nation. And as a sisterhood, we have to learn how to better, and I'm just saying sisterhood because this is a channel for women, that we have to learn how to deal with situations in the right way, and not just idle negative talk. But if something needs to be addressed, we address it in the way Yah tells us to, and then what we'll find is we'll have a better overall result, and you're helping people in a better way. Because then when you go to people, then they'll realize that, whether they'll realize at some point that you cared enough to come to them to say. And then you mix that care and talking to them with prayer at the same time for them, that they're able to overcome whatever it is, if it's true, that they dealing with, that they're causing themselves problems and other people problems. But I hope this has been helpful. If you have any comments, please leave them at the bottom of this video. You can follow me on Instagram at Supporting Yah's Cornerstone. There's also a Facebook page, called Supporting Yah's Cornerstone. Also, you can also leave comments there. But mostly right now, I'm on the Instagram and here on YouTube. I don't check the Facebook page as often yet. If you have any ideas or something helpful I can talk about, if I know about it, I will be willing to make a video about it and talk about it. If you want to contact me, you can contact me at supportingyahscornerstone@gmail.com. That's supportingyahscornerstone@gmail.com also. That's the email address. Thank you for your time. Shalom, shalom.